The Biden lawyers try to explain away a WhatsApp message that has come out in recent hours, as the lawyers also slam people who read it out loud. So we'll be talking about the content of the message, what it means, what it could mean for the Biden admin, and the fact that Hunter, as soon as the misdemeanors were announced, was at a state dinner for PM Modi of India. So we'll be talking about all of that and the impeachment articles as well. In other news, Dianne Feinstein turns 90 today and CNN excoriates her, which is strange coming from CNN, but we'll be talking about that, what's happening there, and what we do with that. Ron DeSantis comes out with a new idea for what to do about the student debt crisis, and I am actually in favor of it in theory, knowing full well that in practice it would be a disaster. We'll talk about that, what's happening there, and what we do with that. And Keith Ellison gets in the news today for reminding Target about their obligations to the LGBTQIRAMIGIXTBYAEIOU sometimes Y community. It is going to be all of this and more. I was the one flying the balloons. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Happy Friday, everybody! Welcome to the Nightly News. My name is Jay Edgar, and we have got a ton of things to go over here today again. Although, not as bad as we've had for some nights here. Like, we don't have 60 articles sitting up here waiting, but definitely some stuff popped off getting ready to go into the weekend, which is always a little bit interesting, because typically when we come into a Friday, especially in the summer, by the way, you'll notice that they don't do this so much in the winter, but when it's summertime out, they try to page B absolutely everything to make sure that people are paying more attention to going out and, for lack of a better term, eating cake than they are talking about the elites who hate them, who want to put them into slavery. So we'll be talking about some of the stuff that actually made it onto the weekend news board. So we'll be going over some of that here. I don't know. I don't know if it's just because I've got a mild headache here going on, or a little bit dehydrated, but man, I'm already, and we're only 4 minutes into the stream, and I'm already starting to sound like Joe Biden. Oh, that Bo, he's a great guy, man. And I'm glad he survived, and Hunter was the one that was gone, man. So, well, we'll try to get through the stream anyway here, because no matter how bad your newscaster feels, the news stops for nobody. So we are going to get right into it. We're going to get started and talk about what's happening here today. Oh, we do have some announcements. Number one, a reminder that as of yesterday, I have taken Odyssey off of the rotation. It actually costs you money to promote your stream on Odyssey. Cryptocurrency, and there was some cryptocurrency that I had generated prior, because all my YouTube uploads go to Odyssey, so you can still go watch the replays over there if anybody here actually still uses Odyssey. And let's be completely frank about the fact that I don't think anybody here does, and I don't think, really honestly at this point, anybody in the world does. But if you do still use Odyssey and you do want to go back and check out the videos, they are there, and YouTube automatically uploads them to Odyssey as a mirror. So just in case we do get the ban hammer at one point all the work that I have done over the last 5 years at this point will still be over there. So you guys can always go back and check out the archives over there. You can check out the archives on YouTube too, but if the axe comes, then the axe comes, and there we sit. But we have that's all up and uploaded over to Odyssey, so you can still use that. But we added Kick to this lineup, and tonight is actually the first time we are using it. I got it set up in like 3 minutes. It was ridiculously easy to go back and set that up to go to the multi-stream and get started with that. And we are streaming to Kick right now, so and the chat marries instantly too. So that's another very, very, very good aspect of that. I know we can't get the chat married in Rumble, so anybody who's talking to Rumble can't talk to everybody else who's going cross-platform. But if you are joining us over on Kick, number one, welcome. Welcome to the new community here, and you can chat with everybody immediately, right from the start. So come back in, join, hang out with us. It's going to be a great time. Sit back. You might even learn something here as we go. Why is Rumble not playing? Oh, please tell me. Please tell me Rumble's going. Please tell me I didn't screw that up. Oh, good. There we go. Okay, I see myself now. So yeah, we've got that. We're on Kick. You can always go find us after the fact on Spotify, because I am uploading that and recording right now too. So go check out all those platforms. By the way, kick.com/jedgar101. So it's just like the YouTube and the Twitch. Come back and hang out with us over there and make a platform over there. It seems that a lot of the people who are doing mostly live stream are heading over there because it's less censorious than Twitch. All right, enough about what's going on here, enough about what we see with that. Let's get down into the news and let's get started. As we always do, we're going to start today with our finance segment and talk about what's going on with the finance. Let's get the live chats up here and let's get started. All right, on finance today, the Dow spent the day down again, with the futures still holding steady at this point. The Dow is at 33,727.43. That is down 219.28 points, or 0.65% on the day. So I am starting to think that we are starting to see a recession here. So we'll be talking a bit about what's going on with that, where we go, and what we expect to see next week. Your Bitcoin took another jump on the day today, jumping up to 3645.40. That's up 732.2 US dollars, or 2.5%. Just about, and we were up over the 31,000 line again at one point today. So those of you who didn't buy the dip, you're probably a little bit too late right now. Still, if you're interested in Bitcoin, this is not official financial advice, but it would be worthwhile to come back and check and see what is happening with the Bitcoin and what it is that you plan to do with it. So definitely check with your financial advisor, check with your finances, and see if this is right for you, but don't take my advice for it, obviously. Looking at your gas prices coming into the Madison area, we see 336 on the west side rather, to match the 336 on the east side. So we've even got a 330 at this point. We are seeing some reprieve, and this may be a holiday weekend effect, and the fact that our political overlords do want to see us going out and partying and forgetting what's happening in Washington, D.C. right now. So I can see some reprieve coming here. I could almost anticipate seeing a little bit more reprieve coming next week before everything starts to climb back up, coming in after the holiday weekend until we get up to Labor Day, because, well, if you're out eating cake, then you don't really pay attention to what's going on with the news. So that's what we see for that. From CNBC on our finance report today, stocks tumble on Friday. NASDAQ snaps 8-week winning streak. From Sarah Min and Samantha Subin. Stocks slid Friday, with Wall Street posting a losing week, as a rally that carried the broader market in recent months appeared to run out of steam. The Dow fell 219.28 points, or 0.65%, to 33,727.43. The S&P slid 0.75% to 4348.33, while the Nasdaq closed lower by 1.01% and at 13,492.52. All three major averages broke multi-week winning streaks. The S&P lost about 1.4%, ending 5 consecutive weeks of gains. The Nasdaq dropped 1.4%, snapping an 8-week win streak, and posting its worst weekly performance since March. The Dow was nearly 1.7% lower, ending a 3-week positive run. Investors are definitely exhibiting renewed fears of a U.S. recession, as well as a global recession, said Axis Investments CEO Greg Basuk. Inflation levels remain elevated, and Federal Reserve policy definitely remains the investor narrative. The pullback was broad-based, with more than 400 stocks in the S&P trading in negative territory. Information technology was among the biggest laggards, down more than 1%. Notably, shares of NVIDIA, a major artificial intelligence beneficiary, were down 1.9%. That is surprising because we just saw them shoot up over the last week, 2 weeks actually. Meanwhile, Goldman Sachs shares declined after CNBC reported the investment bank likely faces a large write-down for its 2021 acquisition of fintech firm GreenSky. The stock was down 1.5%, weighing on the Dow. In contrast, CarMax shares jumped 10% after the used car retailer exceeded first quarter revenue expectations, which again is actually kind of shocking because used car prices are still up. They're not as bad as they were, partially because, as was mentioned before, with the new car prices coming down, the used car prices are in turn going to come down as well because, well, if they're just sitting on the lot, they're not making CarMax any money. So I'm guessing they came down to a point where people are running out to go buy them again. It may be time. If you have a good job and can keep it, by the way, which that's going to be the big cross your fingers coming up into the recession, you may be able to snag a smoking deal on a brand new car or truck coming up in the fall or even down into the winter. We'll see what happens with it. There are no guarantees in any of this, but the prices, the new vehicles are already coming down. The prices of tires are coming down. And yeah, as I pointed out yesterday, we may very well already be in a recession. As much as the news media doesn't want to tell you that, and as much as the, quarter of growth after quarter of growth might not show it at this point, when prices are coming down while the cost of materials are staying exactly where they were, that means that workers are going to have less money to invest back in there and into their workers, which starts to go cyclical. It's not a good sign, and if you're already seeing prices for non-food items coming down because people won't buy them at the rates that they were, that usually tells us that we're not in a good place. But we will see what happens. Tomorrow, there could be a switch flipped, and we're back into go, baby, go. It's doubtful, but we'll see what happens with that. Our layoffs report for the day comes from for a community rather than just one company. KXAN out of Austin, Texas, reports hundreds of layoffs coming to Austin area this summer from Mercedes Hernandez. A warn notice issued this week by Texas Workforce Commission said more than 400 employees would be laid off from companies in Austin and Bastrop by mid-August. The alert said Accenture Austin, Nielsen and Bainbridge LLC, and Southeast Service Corporation, Bastrop Independent School District, would collectively cut 425 workers from their ranks this summer. For Accenture, this comes after a large round of layoffs earlier this year. The past spring, the company planned to lay off up to 549 employees in the coming months. The Ireland-based company works with large tech companies like the Austin Business Journal. Reported in May, these layoffs were linked to reducing roles at Facebook. Kelly Moreno, Chief Solutions Officer with Workforce Solutions Rural Capital Area, says despite the Austin area's thriving variety of industries, layoffs still happen for one reason or another. She encouraged people that may have been laid off to reach out to Workforce Solutions if they need unemployment guidance or help to search for jobs. It can be disheartening at times, but there's so much opportunity in the workforce boards provide that we can give to the people, Moreno said. Accenture and Nielsen and Bainbridge are both located in Williamson County, which has seen an employment boom in recent years. Williamson County Judge Bill Gravel says the overall job climate is doing well in the county, from labor-intensive jobs to tech-related industries largely fueled by the Samsung semiconductor plant being built in Taylor. Just the number of construction workers on site between Taylor and Hutto, easily on a daily basis, eclipses 1,000 employees, I think, in the next 3 months. You're going to see more job and corporate announcements coming out of Williamson County than you've seen in all the years combined. The way you nurture this is you work with the private sector, Judge Gravel said. So, and it's an interesting way to look at things. It's an interesting situation that these people have themselves in. When we come back and look at this, though, one of the things to talk about with this, and being from Wisconsin, I've seen this happen before, where a big company comes in with the promise to build a massive campus in an area, and then certain political and sociological groups come back out and try to wreck it to the point where now they've got this big amount of real estate in this massive campus, but nobody's there because, well, they don't want to take on the risk of putting people to work in the area that might get shut down politically somewhere in the future. I'm, of course, talking about Foxconn and all the workers that could have made in southeast Wisconsin that now don't have jobs because between Evers and progressive groups in the area, they got it all shut down. They took the grant and the building is there, but hey, they kept their manufacturing in China and Japan where they don't have to sit and worry about progressive groups coming in and either vandalizing or shutting the place down. So that is what we see coming off of that. We will see if they do indeed get thousands and thousands of jobs, as they say, as we roll into a recession. Let's move off of the finance. Let's look at the Daily Wire to start with the Hunter saga for today. From the Daily Wire. Photos place Hunter Biden at Joe Biden's home on the day that he invoked his dad to threaten Chinese business partner, according to a report. This is from Ryan Saavedra. Photos from Hunter's laptop appear to place him at his father's home in Wilmington on the same day he used his dad's name to threaten a Chinese business partner. The Free Beacon's Chuck Ross and Andrew Kerr reported that 4 photos from the laptop show Hunter Biden in his dad's Corvette on the same day that he sent a WhatsApp to Henry Zhao on July 30th, 2017. According to a transcript provided by the House Ways and Means Committee, Hunter Biden wrote, "I'm sitting here with my father, and we would like to understand why the commitment made has not been fulfilled. Tell the director I would like to resolve this now before it gets out of hand, and now means tonight, and Z. If I get a call or text from anyone involved in this other than you, Zhang, or the chairman, I will make certain that between the man sitting next to me and every person he knows, and my ability to forever hold a grudge, that you will regret not following my direction. I am sitting here waiting for the call with my father." Henry Zhao is a Chinese Communist Party official, according to Peter Schweizer, and was business partners with the daughter of China's former Minister of State Security. Hunter's message to Zhao was revealed on Thursday when Congress released the transcripts from the testimony of 2 IRS whistleblowers who said that they had recommended more charges to be brought against the president's son, but said they had faced pushback from the Biden admin. The Free Beacon's report noted that if Joe really was next to his son, helping him deal with the situation, his claim that he never had anything to do with his son's foreign business dealings would be invalidated. Which, I think most of us already know that that's invalid anyway. The photo of Hunter in his dad's Corvette is also newsworthy because Biden stored classified documents near that car in his garage. Biden is currently under criminal investigation over his handling of classified material, as questions have swirled over how the documents got there, who had access to them, and for what purpose they were used outside the proper government facilities. Well, conservatives have those questions. The mainstream media will just come back and deflect and say, ooh, Donald Trump, evil Donald Trump. So that is where we start with this, and this in and of itself. And we all know that this was here, by the way. Remember, the contents of the laptop got released. But also keep in mind the fact that this was on the laptop, which means that anybody who might be questioning this is now being screamed at profusely of, oh, you're just obsessed with Hunter's penis. And I wish I was joking about that too, by the way. But alas, I'm not. So we have that. Let's read one from ABC. Hunter Biden alleged WhatsApp messages fuel GOP assertions of corruption even after plea. Well, yeah, that's because the plea doesn't change anything, number one, and number two, and this is the more important part, none of the rest of us would have been offered that plea. People have gone to tape the butt-shut prison over that, or over what the charge would have been instead of that plea. From Lucian Bruggeman. The DOJ's 5-year probe into Hunter Biden lurched toward a conclusion this week with the announcement of a plea deal that will likely allow President Biden's 53-year-old son to avoid prison. But that hasn't stopped congressional Republicans from leveling fresh accusations of corruption against the president and his family. GOP lawmakers on Thursday released transcripts from 2 IRS whistleblowers who together complained in April that the DOJ sabotaged investigators' efforts to level harsher penalties against the younger Biden, an accusation at odds with statements made by the Trump-appointed U.S. attorney who prosecuted the case. The latest whistleblower allegations follow a string of investigative efforts by the GOP-led House Oversight Committee and its chairman, James Comer, who have thus far yielded few meaningful results. Editorial, 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 editorial. The White House has repeatedly downplayed Republican accusations as unfounded innuendo to harm President Biden's political standing, and the Justice Department on Thursday dismissed the claims by the IRS whistleblowers. Well, I do have to say, with especially some of the pictures and the question of some of the ages of the people in the pictures on Hunter's laptop, you shouldn't be worried so much about innuendo as you should be worried about in her endo. What up? Rather than assuaging Republicans' long-standing focus on Hunter Biden, the plea deal his lawyers brokered with federal prosecutors this week appears to have only furthered animated lawmakers' efforts to target the Biden family. Oh my, this is so unbelievably editorialized. Good God. Again, it is sad and scary when the Daily Wire is reporting more objectively than ABC News, and the Daily Wire is literally a partisan rag. Everybody at the Daily Wire is openly partisan, and they still report more objectively than this crap from people who claim to be fair, balanced, and objective and nonpartisan. Republican leaders called the agreement, which still requires approval from a federal judge, a sweetheart deal that would undermine faith in the criminal justice system. Oh no, there's still faith that the system exists. And again, trust me, if any of the rest of us were facing down these charges, we would not be... Well, you wouldn't be watching Contemporary, I can tell you that. The Mogwai says, "You're obsessed with Hunter's penis? I'm sorry, but the state of South Carolina cannot control or endorse Lindsey Graham's internet searches." That's kind of clever, actually. As part of their rollout on Thursday of allegations that senior Justice Department officials stymied the probe into Hunter's taxes, congressional Republicans have seized on a July 2017 WhatsApp message in which the younger Biden purportedly threatened a Chinese business associate by invoking his father's political connections. You know, when it's, oh, well, he's got these documents and no, you can't see them, it's... Evil Donald Trump is objectively evil and going down, and we've got him this time. And when it's, oh, we've actually found some evidence of corruption in a WhatsApp message that's linked to Hunter Biden, it's Republicans pounce, seize on a message. ABC News could not immediately verify the WhatsApp message, but Republicans say it undercuts President Biden's claim that he never discussed overseas business endeavors with his son, Ian Sams. A White House spokesperson reiterated Friday the president was not in business with his son. In July of 2017, Biden's term as vice president had already ended, and he held no political office despite what some Republicans have incorrectly suggested on Thursday. At the time, Hunter, by his own admission, was in the throes of his crack addiction. Chris Clark, lead attorney for Hunter Biden, condemned the GOP's biased and politically motivated leaks in a statement on Friday afternoon and sought to distance Hunter's alleged words from President Biden. Any verifiable words or actions of my client in the midst of a horrible addiction are solely his own and have no connection with anyone in his family, Clark said. Clark also cast doubt on the authenticity of the message. A close examination of the document released publicly yesterday by a very biased individual raises serious questions over whether it was what he claims it to be. Well, I have questions about the photos of the classified documents released by a very biased individual and source over whether it is what it claims to be. So do keep that in mind. If the message is in fact real and its contents taken at face value, it would certainly raise political and ethical questions for the White House. Hunter Biden and his uncles, James and Frank, have a lengthy record of invoking the family name to secure business deals without Joe Biden's knowledge. That is such bullshit. The only reason it's without his knowledge now is the fact that he doesn't know where his pants are 3/4 of the time. But this was not the case in 2016, 2017, 2018. Which could have been the case in the circumstance, but if Joe Biden wasn't at the office at the time, or wasn't in office at the time, it would not necessarily amount to an evidence of a crime. Other records released Thursday by the committee appear to conflict with their broader claim that President Biden was an active participant in Hunter's business endeavors. In his interview with the committee, for example, one of the IRS whistleblowers recounted an interview with one of Hunter's business associates, Rob Walker, during which Walker said, "I certainly never was thinking any time the VP was part of anything that we were doing." So we can keep on going with this very, very editorialized position, but and again, I will remind you that ABC would be going after somebody with an R after their name with incredible amounts of zeal. And again, for sure we've got him this time on far less evidence than this. I don't care, by the way, that an outlet expresses some doubt in something like this. I'm the first one to come back out and say, hey, I need some more proof than what you guys are showing me right now. But if I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt on something like this, I need you to have a consistent standard. Because it's extremely inconsistent the way that you do it. And probably one of the stupidest and most ill-advised legal maneuvers in Washington, Hunter Biden's attorney slams IRS whistleblowers' illegal release of WhatsApp message to Chinese businessmen. Dude, Hunter, buddy, you need a new lawyer. Because if you're going to try to go down the route that ABC tried to go down in their editorialized story off of this, then you need to not have a lawyer who will come back out and say, hey, how dare you release this? Because that tells me, just by the way that they did this, that the thing is real. From Adam Sabes, Jackie Heinrich from Fox News. Hunter's attorney is responding to a testimony from an IRS whistleblower who claims that the agency obtained a WhatsApp message in which the president's son invoked his father's name. IRS Criminal Supervisory Special Agent Gary Shapley Jr., who oversaw the agency's investigation into Hunter, claims the agency obtained a message from WhatsApp dated July 30th, 2017, from Hunter to Henry Zhao, CEO of Harvest Fund Management, where the president's son claimed that he was with his father in an attempt to pressure Zhao to fulfill a commitment. Chris Clark, an attorney for Hunter, said in a statement to Fox News Digital that the claims are very misleading. Bias and politically motivated selective leaks have plagued the matter for years. They're not only irresponsible, they are illegal. A close examination of the document released publicly yesterday by a very biased individual raises serious questions over whether it is what he claims it to be. It's dangerously misleading to make any conclusions or inferences based on the document, Clark said. The DOJ investigation covered a period which was a time of turmoil and addiction for my client. Clark also said that any verifiable words or actions of my client in the midst of a horrible addiction are solely his own and have no connection to anybody in his family. An extensive 5-year-long investigation conducted by the U.S. DOJ concluded this week, which resulted in my client taking responsibility. Okay. For 2 instances of misdemeanor failure to file tax payments. No. 2 instances of felony failure to file tax payments that were reduced to a misdemeanor because, again, political connections. As well as a firearm charge, which will be subject to a pretrial diversion agreement. As his attorney through this entire matter, I can say that any suggestion the investigation was not thorough or cut corners or cut my client any slack is preposterous and deeply irresponsible. Mark Little, an attorney for Shapley, told Fox News on Friday that his client wanted to just bring this out to the public as a whistleblower in a protective fashion so that everybody could judge it. Lytle also noted that according to Shapley, the WhatsApp messages were obtained through a search warrant. It's important to note that this WhatsApp message did not come from the laptop or any nefarious source. Gary Shapley testified that they did a search warrant, they got a hold of Hunter's iCloud account, and they did a search warrant to Apple, to the Apple Cloud, where they accessed Hunter Biden's WhatsApp messages, iMessages, and other information. So this is credible. This comes from a credible source, and it's information that's very relevant to the dealings with the Chinese energy company and the outcome that Hunter Biden received, Lytle said. In response to the whistleblower allegations, Ian Sams, a spokesperson for the White House counsel's office, told Fox News that the president wasn't involved with his son in business, which we talked about just a bit earlier. So, there are a few things that are going both for and against the investigation with this. Number one, as has been pointed out, this message was from 2017. Did they give me a month in 2017? July 2017, so about 6 months into the Trump administration already. But one of the big questions with that is, now this is only 6 months, and it definitely takes more than 6 months to build a good business relationship, especially overseas. Especially if, and as again, as the lawyer for Hunter is claiming, with Hunter being in a drug haze at the time that he's sending out these messages. And I would be even more curious at this point to see what the responses were. Which, I mean, none of the sources that we've been given so far talk about the responses to see if Zhao either told Hunter to go and fuck himself, or if he did come out and say, oh yeah, no, don't take the influence away, we'll do whatever you say. I would be very interested to see what the response was, because that will help to gauge what kind of business rapport Hunter had, how long they've been doing business together, and what Biden's role was in this. But the lawyer has all but acknowledged that this is a real thing. And while he may not have been the president at the time, or vice president, he still had access to very, very, very high up people in the DNC and also in Congress on the Supreme Court. And I would argue still some people that were in the executive branch who may have, especially at that time, only 6 months in, may not have been replaced or had a suitable acting director appointed to. I will not go down onto the conspiracy level limb of saying that this proves that they tried to push Biden into the White House and they knew that they were going to as far back as 2017. It does raise a few red flags, but I don't call this definitive proof of the fact that they were going to try to honk him in there. But again, the reaction by the attorneys, by the White House and the Biden team, the Hunter Biden team, of course, leads me to believe that this, number one, was real, and number two, did not have the purest of purposes. White House responds, and silly, tech illiterate me didn't run this through until they told me I'll fix it next time. Or archive it. I should have archived it. That's what I should have done. From NPC News, White House responds to claims Biden's son Hunter received preferential treatment. From Catherine Doyle, Monica Alba, and Peter Nicholas. A White House spokesperson defended President Biden on Friday in the wake of new accusations made public this week that his son Hunter received preferential treatment in a high-profile federal tax investigation. Ian Sams, a spokesman for the White House's counsel office, issued a statement on Friday saying the White House had no role in decision-making regarding the case, separately that Joe Biden has no ties to his son's business operations. On Thursday, a House committee made public the transcripts of two senior IRS agents who testified this year behind closed doors that U.S. Attorney David Weiss sought to charge Hunter on broader charges than the two tax-related misdemeanors that he agreed to plead guilty to this week. The whistleblowers claimed the House Ways and Means Committee that those efforts were blocked, alleging sweeping misconduct in the probe. The DOJ has vehemently denied the charge. One of the whistleblowers shared with the committee WhatsApp messages that appeared to show Hunter Biden telling a business associate he was with his father and threatening that the contact would regret his failure to respond to a demand for payment. Again, I do point out the fact that while having this WhatsApp message and having Hunter being brazen enough to make this WhatsApp message is damning in and of itself, the key piece of evidence to this is going to be Henry Zhao's response. And I'm a little bit suspicious over the fact that we haven't seen that. As we have said many times before, the president was not in business with his son. As we have also said many times before, the DOJ makes decisions on its criminal investigations independently. And in this case, the White House has not been involved, Sam said on Friday. As the president has said, he loves his son and is proud of him, accepting responsibility for his actions, and is proud of what he's doing to rebuild his life. The statement addressed the broadness of the allegations, but did not speak to the specific new claims that were leveled on Thursday. At this point, we will listen to what Toga University have to say at the end of this segment. So I'm going to skip at this paragraph here, and we'll talk about this a bit later. From the Daily Wire, Hunter Biden lawyer tries to explain away damning text to Chinese businessman from Virginia Kruta. We're not going to go through every part of this article, but I want to touch on a couple of the ways this is being presented here. Clark did not dispute the veracity of the text message, but instead claimed that anything the younger Biden might have said was a side effect of addiction and therefore cannot be interpreted as being connected to his father in any way. Clark also concluded that claiming that it was illegal and irresponsible to make the text public, arguing that the fact that they had been released by Republicans made them automatically suspect. But you don't deny what's in the messages. And that makes a lot more questions about what's actually going on here. before we talk about the state dinner, I had one here that I wanted to touch on here. Liberty Lockdown with Clint Russell, who I've interviewed before, by the way. He is an awesome guy. He has shot up. I don't think I could ever interview him again because of the Timcast effect. He has gone far, far above and beyond where I'm at. I'd ask him again. But Liberty Lockdown with Clint Russell says, KGB won't defend Biden. Kirby won't defend Biden. Press corps in a feeding frenzy. The Gavin Newsom signal's been lit. Biden is out. Seems likely Biden was offered this exit to keep his son out of prison. I think Joe will announce that he's not running for re-election very, very soon, which actually is a possibility. I don't know if it's going to be really soon, though. That's the thing. It's hard to gauge, especially politically, and also with the world stage at this point, with Russia being in the position that it's in. William Poindexter says, I agree, but what makes you think Newsom is the guy? That's the other question that I have off of this. Now, one of the things to watch for if we do start to see some higher profile Democrats actually get into the race, because right now it's RFK Jr., who is, to the people that are there, for all intents and purposes, a Republican. To the people who are going to be voting in the Democrat primary, RFK Jr. is a Republican. Let's be completely honest about that. They don't even look at RFK Jr. as a Democrat, which is going to lead to their downfall, I think, but probably not this race. And Marianne Williamson, who absolutely nobody takes seriously. But if we start to see Beto O'Rourke and Gavin Newsom start to file some paperwork, if it does become an open primary again, I will say that Beto O'Rourke is probably going to get into it. I can almost guarantee that at this point. As far as the political aspect of this, and I've talked about this since the beginning of the presidency, when the president's health came into question for the first time, all the way back in January of 2 years ago. I've already talked about this. Biden has to, for at least the vast majority of his presidency, put on the facade of he is going to run for re-election and he's completely fit and fine and nothing is wrong. And that is not for the fact that everything is fine, nothing's wrong. That's not for his base, that's not for anything else. That is for foreign diplomacy. 100% that is for foreign diplomacy. He has to put on the facade that he's fit as a fiddle and he can run, because with Russia doing what they're doing in the Ukraine, which they would be doing anyway. I mean, look at the guy. But if Biden were to come back out and say, "Hey man, I'm too tired, man. My son, he's a good guy, but the torch has to go on, and there's just so much younger talent," which there really isn't in that party anyway. But there's so much younger talent that I gotta retire, man. It's just too much for me, man. Putin takes the armies that he's been gathering in Belarus, that nobody's been talking about, and marches straight down into Kiev. Or does something else stupid to see if he can get away with it. It might not actually be Kiev at this point. For diplomacy, Biden has to throw the face and the facade of the fact that he is ripped, raring to go for 2024, and he is absolutely going to win re-election in 2024. Because number one, his position is a stewardship. And number two, we are, as much as I hate the idea, the world's police. Which means that the rest of the world needs to see a strong leader, or at least the facade of a strong leader in this country. Obviously, there's no such thing as... You can't say strong leader and Joe Biden in the same sentence. As far as Newsom, the only The only reason that I would see as Newsom being up there would be to somehow further polarize the country, to divide us further and bring in more government authoritarianism, no matter who the winner is at this point. Ron DeSantis himself is not too far to the right to be elected, but he's been portrayed as such. He's been portrayed, and he's even run his campaign as, I'm so Jesus, I'm going to end abortion nationwide, and I'm going to this, that, the next thing. And of course, with the portrayal of him being as the super far right, also the racism accusations come, and he is being portrayed as the far right governor, with Gavin Newsom, obviously, with his positions, being the far left governor. And our political overseers coming out here and trying to experiment and see what happens when we get into this point where it's just the only viable options that we have, viable, as we say, are far, far right DeSantis and far, far left Newsom. But under normal circumstances, I would not say that they would put Newsom up, because he has got too much of a record of being too far to the left to be electable across the rest of the country. I wouldn't put Ron DeSantis up either for the same region. Again, not because he himself is too far to the right, but because he's being portrayed as being too Jesus, too far to the right. But I would not be surprised to see some people start coming out of the woodwork at this point. We'll see. From CNN, Hunter Biden among high-profile guests at state dinner honoring Indian PM Modi, from Ariat Sands and Betsy Klein. Hunter attended the state dinner for Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Thursday, marking his first public appearance at the White House since his plea agreement was announced. His inclusion marked a notable show of support from President Biden, whose long-standing loyalty for his son has been on full display after Hunter reached the plea agreement with the Justice Department. The younger Biden will plead guilty to 2 tax misdemeanors and struck a deal with federal prosecutors to resolve a felony gun charge. During a meeting with Modi in the Oval Office earlier on Thursday, the president flashed a thumbs up when a reporter showed his son Hunter how his son was feeling. And on Tuesday, he told reporters he was very proud of his son. The president and first lady love their son and support him as he continues to rebuild his life. We will have no further comment, White House spokesman Ian Sams said following the plea deal announced on Tuesday. Hunter has been on hand for various White House events since his father took office, including attending a state dinner for Emmanuel Macron last year. He attended Thursday's dinner with his wife Melissa, as well as sister Ashley Biden, daughter Naomi Biden, Neil, and her husband Peter Neil, and his uncle Jim Biden, according to a guest list released by the White House. Other notable guests on the list include Huma Abedin, Tim Cook, Martin Luther King III, M. Night Shyamalan, Ralph Lauren, Billie Jean King, Kevin McCarthy, Reem Akra, and multiple cabinet officials. President Biden hosted his counterpart during a lavish black tie event that took place in a tent in the South Lawn overlooking the Washington Monument and the White House. He jokingly welcomed the evening's nearly 400 guests to Prime Minister Modi's Washington home at the White House. Hey man, I've been doing this a long time, but don't ever remember anyone getting a warmer welcome than this man right here. Come on, man, Biden said. He touted the 2 countries' shared commitment to democracy, celebrating Indian Americans' accomplishments in the arts, education, in the media, law, medicine, and science, and businesses of every size, and spelling bee champions, and even in cricket clubs across the country, including in my home state of Delaware, man. Earlier on Thursday, Biden welcomed Modi to the White House with full pomp and circumstance of a formal arrival ceremony, a military welcome that dates back to the Truman administration and features a full honor guard. Biden and Modi held bilateral meetings in the Oval Office and a brief press engagement before Modi addressed a joint session of Congress in late afternoon. So, just out of curiosity, they tell us who the notable guests are of the Biden family. And they point out Kevin McCarthy was there, along with Huma Abedin, Tim Cook, Martin Luther King III, M. Night Shyamalan, Ralph Lauren, tennis legend Billie Jean King, and multiple cabinet officials, including notably the head of the DOJ, who just got done pleading down Hunter Biden. A tweet from Colin Rugg pointing out Hunter Biden and Merrick Garland, we'll back this up for just a sec, attended the same state dinner last night just hours after the DOJ was accused of a massive cover-up involving Hunter's tax fraud case. They're laughing at you. They think you're stupid. They're in one big elite club with the state media, and there's nothing that you can do about it. How is it that Carlin used to say it? It's a big club and you're not in it.
Distinguished guests, please make your way to your seats. Dinner will begin shortly. Thank you. Distinguished guests, please make your way to your seats. The dinner will begin shortly. Thank you.
I do have to back this up.
Distinguished guests, please make your way to your
Did
seats.
we see Garland in here? Because I don't think we did. I don't necessarily know that this tweet is saying the same what the original tweeter is supposed to say, but Garland, yes, was there, so I thought for sure we'd see him in the video. But it doesn't appear that we will be seeing that. But regardless, let them eat jalabai. Hunter schmoozes it up at White House State Dinner hours after IRS whistleblower report. This is an op-ed from Tim Meads. The opinions expressed in this article are the opinions of Tim Meads and not necessarily the opinions of the Daily Wire, its staff, Jeremy Boring, Ben Shapiro, or, on our side, Turns the Pages Productions, Contemporary, your host Jay Edgar, or anybody else involved with Turns the Pages Productions. Hunter took a victory lap on Thursday at the White House State Dinner, flaunting his uncanny ability to escape severe criminal charges for a litany of alleged crimes. Photos show that Biden's phony smile was on full display at the diplomatic banquet between the US and India, even as the rest of the nation was digging through pages and pages of testimony alleging that President Biden's DOJ ran an interference campaign that can be summed up as a delay, divulge, and deny playbook used to thwart serious charges against Hunter. Among those transcripts were claims that the president's son threatened Chinese Communist Party officials over business, while his father was in the room despite the president denying any connection to Hunter's dealings, attempted to expense prostitutes, and a range of other financial crimes. From outside the 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, his public appearance was an obvious open mockery of the rule of law. To sum up the testimony, IRS whistleblower Gary Shapley alleged that the Delaware U.S. Attorney's Office, Department of Justice Tax, and Department of Justice provided preferential treatment and unchecked conflicts of interest in an important and high-profile investigation of the president's son Hunter. There are various Twitter threads breaking down all the allegations, but Real Clear Investigations editor-at-large Benjamin Weingarten provides perhaps the most in-depth coverage. From the Shapley affidavit, there's no reward for me becoming a whistleblower. The only win for me is to not be fired or arrested or retaliated against, which is probably still coming, by the way. After you hear my testimony, I believe you'll understand why my conscience could not be silenced. My oath of office would have been unfulfilled if I did nothing. I went from a senior leader to a pariah, and the only thing that happened in between was that I blew the whistle. The purpose of this op-ed is not to examine the IRS's full investigation into Hunter, which reportedly began out of an investigation into a pornography ring, of all things. But it should be noted that all of this allegedly happened before the 2020 election, which was, as the Federalist sharply summarizes, would make it another form of election interference, which of course never happened because the 2020 election was the freest and fairest election in history and nothing bad happened. It's even freer and fairer than the 1960 election. Further investigation of the IRS's findings into how Hunter made his money could reveal what has been suspected all along. The Biden family has been profiting off the president's name and office by selling access to government and business leaders from around the world. Based on evidence, the only thing more obvious than the Biden family making money through such illicit means is that the swamp at large is in the tank for Biden and the American people are being had. I don't think that's the case either. I actually don't. I don't think they're specifically in the tank for Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. He just happens to be the one who is the closest to being implicated because of the way that his son was posted into the position. Let me explain that for just a sec. I've always said, number one, that the perfectly legal phone call that started impeachment 1.0 and very, very shortly after that pushed Joe Biden into actually running for the presidency. Remember, at the time that the perfectly legal phone call was released, he wasn't announced yet at that time. And yet they went forward with the impeachment as if Donald Trump had been making the phone call to eliminate a political enemy. Which, by the way, is incredibly interesting. The fact that they tried to go down that route while they're literally trying to gulag the man. Well, okay, it was before they tried to gulag the man, but regardless. And I speculated at the time, as soon as we started to figure out what was going on there and the fact that Hunter Biden was involved, of the fact that, again, I don't think that it was specifically Joe Biden was the one that was running the ring. It was just the fact that it was his son who was offered up as the, quote, sacrificial lamb to go over to Burisma and do the work and do the influence peddling. And a lot more Democrats had their hands in the cookie jar. And furthermore, by selecting Joe Biden to be the president means that, number one, he has executive privilege for pretty much the rest of his natural life, because let's face it, if he doesn't get a second term, he's not going to make it for very much longer after his first term ends. And if he does get a second term, I don't think he's making his way through it. I think he is going to make it to 2024. I do. But regardless, he's got a very, very good chance of having an executive privilege for the rest of his natural life. And again, one of the problems that I pointed out with the fact that they are going after Hunter's dealings, especially now that Joe Biden is the president, is the fact that it looks exactly like it looks with the Trump indictment. Political people going after political enemies for political reasons. And if they go after him after Biden comes out of office or dies, it is still going to be looked and breathlessly screamed about on the media that this is a political persecution based on the fact that they didn't like Joe. And I do think that there were a lot more people in the Democrat Party that had their hands in the cookie jar. I don't think that this addled, Alzheimer's-ridden old man is the ringleader in this whole thing. I've never thought that. In fact, I would argue by mental faculties, Hunter is probably higher, closer to the top of it than Joe is. But again, if they can get him on executive privilege for the rest of his life, they can't call him in to testify and risk the fact that he says something tremendously tremendously and massively damning and stupid without knowing it, because he's lost control of his mental faculties. The man is not all there. But one of the issues with having Alzheimer's is you never know when a person's going to be deep in Alzheimer's haze and when that person is actually going to have a semi-lucid moment. Nor do I think, by the way, that this addled old man is making the decisions in the White House. I'm actually going to skip this one from Fox here, and we're going to go right into another Daily Wire article talking about, of course, the press briefing. White House flaks bombarded with questions about Hunter's damning WhatsApp message. From Tim Pierce. Reporters peppered the Biden admin representatives on Friday after the release of the bombshell WhatsApp messages that allegedly shows President Biden and his son Hunter shaking down a Chinese businessman. Press Secretary, token diversity hire, and national security spokesman John Kirby refused to answer numerous questions from reporters on Friday, a day after House Ways and Means Committee Chairman Jason Smith released a WhatsApp message obtained by IRS investigators looking into Hunter's overseas business dealings. Let's watch.
The House Ways and Means Committee yesterday released documents, their authenticity nowhere challenged. That included a July 2017 WhatsApp message sent by Hunter Biden to Henry Zhao, a Chinese Communist Party official, which stated in its entirety, and I quote, "I am sitting here with my father, and we would like to understand why the commitment made has not been fulfilled. Tell the director that I would like to resolve this now before it gets out of hand, and now means tonight. And Z, if I get a call or text from anyone involved in this other than you, Zhang, or the chairman, I will make certain that between the man sitting next to me and every person he knows, and my ability to forever hold a grudge, that you will regret not following my direction. I am sitting here waiting for the call with my father," unquote. So just a couple of questions about this. First, does this not undermine the president's claim during the 2020 campaign and the reaffirmations of that claim by his two press secretaries since then, that he never once discussed his son's overseas business dealings with him?
No, and I'm not going to comment further on this.
We're good.
I'm not. James, let me save you some. Let me save you some breath. If you're going to ask about this, I am not addressing. I know you do more than I'd like you to have. I am not going to address this issue from this podium. I'm just not going to do it.
All right.
I'm not going to do
Where
it.
was the president on the date?
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend.
Bye! Let's go back down to the end here. We're going to mute this first. Let's go back down to the end. Do you see that John Kirby shaped cloud of smoke where John Kirby used to be a second ago? Again, I point out, it's like an old Warner Brothers cartoon. Watch him. Without even the sound on it, watch him. Poof. Diversity hire stepped into the podium and refused to answer questions on Hunter and WhatsApp message for nearly 4 minutes. Let's watch.
His son Hunter to the state dinner last night. I'm wondering if you could take us into the thinking and the decision making of why the president decided to invite.
I'm just not going to get into family discussion, personal family discussion. As you know, Hunter is his son. I'm just not going to get into it.
Let me ask you this. If Hunter Biden wasn't the president's son, would he have invited someone who had just reached a plea agreement with federal prosecutors 2 days earlier?
A couple of things. Again, that's his son. He's a family member. It is not uncommon for family members to attend events at the White House. You could look at past presidents. I'm sure you have. So that is not uncommon. As it relates to anything related to Hunter, I'm just not going to respond to it from here.
Can I follow up on that?
No, I just called in somebody. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Kirby wouldn't answer James's question, though. Are you going to answer the question? I mean, it's not a reasonable question to ask whether the President of the United States was involved, as this message seems to suggest, in some sort of a coercive conversation for business dealings by his son? Is that something, if he wasn't, then maybe you should tell us?
So here's the thing, and I appreciate the question. I believe my colleague at the White House Counsel has answered this question already, has dealt with this, has made it very clear. I just don't have anything to share outside of what my colleagues have shared, and so I would refer you to him and the DOJ. Just not going to comment from here.
Text message.
I will. What I can tell you is I know that my colleague has dealt with this. He addressed this at the White House Counsel. I just don't have anything else to share.
In the shakedown attempt?
I just answered the question. I just answered the question.
No, you didn't. Yes or no? Was the president involved in the
I just
shakedown attempt?
Stephen, I just answered the question. It's not up to you how I answer the question. I just answered the question by telling you my colleagues at the White House Counsel has dealt with this, and I would refer you to them. Go ahead.
Can you just remind us what your colleague said from the White House Counsel so we have it?
I would refer you to them, and they will share their statement with all of you.
My question is about your statements from that podium. You've stated that the president stands by his comment from the 2020 campaign that he never once discussed his son's overseas business dealings with his son. And you stood at that podium and you reaffirmed that. Do you stand by your reaffirmation?
What I will say is nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. And I will leave it there. Anything else, I will refer you to the White House Counsel.
This is not a change?
I just answered the question. You just asked me, does my statement change? I just told you nothing has changed. That's answering the question. Go ahead. Go ahead.
How do you get worse than Jen Psaki? How do you get worse than Kayleigh McEnany? Well, at least Kayleigh McEnany was entertaining. She didn't answer a whole lot either, but at least she was entertaining. How do you get worse at this job than Jen Psaki?
The president was there 2 days
Go ahead,
prior.
Stephen. I'm calling on your colleague right now. Go ahead.
Thank you. To follow up on my colleague, is there anything that you can say with regard to this text message and what the president's son was alleging? Was the president there or not?
I would refer you to my colleagues at the White House Counsel. They have addressed this, and I refer you to them. Go ahead.
Karine, have you spoken to the president about this? Have you asked him whether he was there with his son on July 30th?
This is not a conversation that I've had with the president. Again, I would refer you to the White House
Do
Counsel.
you plan to have that conversation with the president?
No.
Did the president speak with the attorney general at all
I
last
can't.
night?
I cannot say if the president had had a conversation with the attorney general last night. What I can refer you to is the White House Counsel's office as it relates to the allegations. They've already addressed this. This is something for them to deal with. I refer you to the Department of Justice on anything else if you don't want to speak to the White House Counsel's office.
And there was
And it is entertaining to see, and Mr. Scott, or Dual Helix rather, points out that she is just getting her shit fucking shoved in on this one. They are pushing right back. They're not having it. Which is a little bit amazing coming from left-wing reporters at this point. But they are not having her doing the avoidance on this one. Absolutely. Which is good on them. But it's also entertaining the fact that, as was pointed out, she sang the praises when she could come out and say the president stands by his statement and he had nothing to do with Hunter's business dealings, and I said this right from this podium, and now that it's shown that, hey, that actually might not be the case, it's, oh, well, just talk to the White House Counsel. I can't answer any of that here. All right, let's talk impeachment. That's going to be an interesting shift of gears here for this. Let's get the live chat back up here. Let's get the music back up. Mogwai says, growing up in the 80s, I think this is the shit show we would have had if Bush 1 had gotten a second term. Ooh. Do you guys feel that? I just had a spike of ice run up my spine. I don't know what it was. Alright, let me try this again. Growing up in the 80s, I think this is the shit show we would have gotten if Bush 1 had gotten a second. There it is again. One more time. We would have gotten if Bush 1 had gotten a second term. What is that? I have no idea what that is. Anyway, we'll just pick up from where I left off this way. And Dan Quayle got the nod after. That's a possibility. I mean, I can't even imagine what kind of a mess this country would be in if Bush 1 had gotten a second term. You guys feel that, right? That's not just me. Mogwai says, I trust Ocean Gate subdivision before I trust the Biden White House on these claims. Talking about the reporter speaking to John Kirby, Mogwai says, wow, his voice could put Hunter asleep after a meth cracked out bender. She's nicely saying, talk to the hand because the face don't understand. She's practicing for her future job at the DMV. I'll direct you to the next window, please. Can I finish? And over on the Rumble side, Boombox, it says she's wishing a trap door would open and take her out of there. Which, by the way, I did say that wrong because I didn't have Rumble chat up. When I said that, I still had the YouTube stream up for the music behind. So that was Boomboxes, not Dual Helix, that it said that she was getting her shit kicked in. I apologize, Boomboxes. Alright, and yes, she's wishing a trapdoor would open and take her out of there. That way she would get out of there faster than John Kirby did. Alright, from the Associated Press. House Republicans push off Biden impeachment bid for now as hard right clamors for action. Evil far right. This is going to be so sickeningly editorialized. I don't know if we're going to get through this article. Well, I don't read to the end most of the time anyway. But I don't know how far I can get into this stupid. From Lisa Mascaro. Eager to impeach President Biden, hard right House Republicans forced to vote on Thursday. That sent the matter to a congressional committee in a clear demonstration of the challenge that Speaker McCarthy faces in controlling the majority party. The ability of a single lawmaker in the 435-member House to drive an impeachment resolution this week caught Republicans off guard, and many of them viewed it as a distraction from the other priorities. The measure charges Biden with high crimes and misdemeanors over his handling of the U.S. border with Mexico. Lauren Boebert, backed by allies, was able to use the House rules to force a snap vote. On such a grave constitutional matter, the 219 to 208 party line vote sent her resolution to committees for possible consideration. Like any other bill, they're under no obligation to do anything. Still, Boebert argued in the debate, the House is taking historic action! The episode underscores the hold that House conservatives flank experts, not experts. Exerts over McCarthy, compelling him to accommodate their hard right priorities if he wants to stay in power. Conservatives are gearing up for more. The process Boebert employed is the same method that Anna Paulina Luna relied on to force a vote Wednesday to censure Adam Schiff over his investigations into Trump's ties to Russia. Those of you who are more versed in Final Fantasy, who is Terra and why is this theme, his or her theme, I don't know if it's a him or her, but why does his or her theme slap so hard? It's probably one of my favorite tracks on the remixed Final Fantasy soundtracks that come through the music stream that I use to just keep background noise in here. You know, just in case stupid me forgets to turn the microphone on. There's going to be no end to this, Schiff said. Kevin McCarthy has no control over his conference. The race to the extreme is now running the House of Representatives, which are huge words given what your Progressive Caucus has done to the Democrat Party, Adam Schiff. Pot kettle. And of course it's doing terrible damage to the institution. During Thursday's debate, Republicans were admonished multiple times by the presiding officer to tone down their remarks. Oh, so the House is acting like the House used to act? Democrats argued that the case against Biden made a mockery of the seriousness of impeachment. Yeah, like impeachment 2.0 did. Let me remind you, by the way, that this is the party who, as soon as the acquittal that they knew was coming, by the way, was handed... No, it wasn't even as soon as the acquittal was handed down. It was before the acquittal was handed down. It was while the articles were being passed off from the House to the Senate. Democrats were already standing there saying, we are going to impeach him again. These are the people who want you to see a mockery of the impeachment process. And it was merely an attempt to distract from the twice impeached Trump, the former Republican president now indicted for hoarding classified documents under the Espionage Act. Today, they're dishonoring this House and dishonoring themselves by bringing to the floor this ridiculous impeachment referral resolution, said Mass Rep. Jim McGovern, the top Democrat on the House Rules Committee, suggesting Trump put his allies up to it. Would that be anywhere similar to, we're going to impeach the motherfucker? Hold on. A person in a caucus putting the allies up to it. Is that anything like this?
People love you and you win. Woo! And when your son looks at you and says, Mama, look, you won, bullies don't win. And I said, baby, they don't. Because we're going to go in there, we're going to impeach the motherfucker.
People like that are concerned about Republicans making a mockery of impeachment. Reminder that this was before the swearing in 2019. This body has become a place where extreme, outlandish, and nutty issues get debated passionately, and important ones not at all, McGovern said. In short, the Republican Party is a joke. Well, that's what the House was supposed to be. To begin with. Like, they had fistfights on the House floor in the 18th century. Aaron Burr shot Alexander Hamilton because of a House argument. The vote kept days of maneuvering by McCarthy to quell the uprising within his party over a roll call that many did not take. So, it's gone to committee. We will see what happens with that. Just a brief one from the Hill, and then we'll switch parties again. Republicans punt on Boebert's efforts to impeach Biden, from Mike Lillis and Michael Schnell. House Republicans on Thursday neutered an effort to impeach President Biden, putting the resolution to a pair of committees and avoiding, for now, a politically perilous vote that threatened to split the GOP and undermine the party's various investigations into the White House. The 219 to 208 party line vote ends a two-day clash between GOP leaders and Lauren Boebert of Colorado, a conservative firebrand who stunned Washington on Tuesday by introducing a procedural measure to force a floor vote on her impeachment articles despite the objection of Speaker McCarthy. These sides ultimately reached an agreement late Wednesday to sidestep an impeachment vote by sending the articles to both Judiciary and Homeland Security committees, which have jurisdiction over impeachment and immigration policy, respectively. The deal avoids, at least temporarily, what might have been an embarrassing internal fight on the House floor. And Boebert is already warning that if the two committees don't move on impeachment quickly enough to satisfy her sense of urgency, she intends to reintroduce the privilege resolution to force the issue to the House floor once again. Look, that is my commitment, and if nothing happens in the committee like I'm promised that it will, yes, I will bring a privilege resolution every day for the rest of my time here in Congress. Which is going to guarantee that you don't get a third term, by the way. And I remind you, Lauren Boebert, I respect your fire, but people who aren't in Congress don't make laws. Boebert told reporters on Wednesday night. Asked how much time she's willing to give the committee process before moving to force another vote, Boebert said, "The chairman is working on those details," adding that he's planned a few months out of work and that there's a little bit of grace out there. So that is tabled for now, but on the other side of the aisle, from the Associated Press, Speaker McCarthy supports expunging Trump's impeachments over Ukraine on January 6th. I'm a little surprised they haven't done that already. I mean, come on, Kevin, it's been 6 months. Come on, Kevin. Do the thing. Yeah, Mogwai says MTG is jumping up and down like a Jack Russell wanting you to throw the tennis ball right now with impeachment talk. Let's see. From Lisa Mascaro. House Speaker McCarthy said Friday that he supports the idea of expunging the two impeachments of Donald Trump as hard-right Republican allies of the former president introduced a pair of proposals to declare it as though the historic charges never happened. McCarthy told reporters that he agrees with Marjorie Taylor Greene and Elise Stefanik, who want to erase the charges against Trump from the former president's impeachments of 2019 and 2021. I think it's appropriate, said McCarthy, the Republican from California, just as I thought before that you should expunge it because it never should have gone through. Pressed on his views, McCarthy said he agreed with expunging both of Trump's impeachments, the abuse of power charges in 2019, over pressing Ukraine's president to dig up dirt on rival Joe Biden, who hadn't announced yet. That right there should be enough to expunge that one. And the 2021 charge that Trump incited the January 6th selfie fest at the Capitol, as Trump supporters tried to make their voices heard, walked into the rotunda, and got really confused as to what to do next. If you want editorialized Associated Press, I can editorialize too. In both cases, Trump was acquitted by the Senate after his impeachment by the House, but expunging the charges from his record would be an action that he could further tout as vindication as he seeks another term in the White House. The effort is the latest by Trump's allies to rewrite the narrative of the defeated president's tenure in office. Oh my God. And the Associated Press is supposed to be the most reliable and objective newswire out there. That's what it used to be. Now it's this op-ed. And it underscores the pressure McCarthy is under from his right flank. Well, not really, because he actually had talked about doing that when he first started seeking the speakership. Even when it was a long shot bid against Nancy Pelosi the last time through. And I think it should be expunged, honestly. And if you want me to be completely honest with it, I think Bill should be expunged too. I would go as far as to say expunge Nixon's, but honestly, I'd like to sit down and do a deeper analysis of Watergate. And I think I might do that with KTZed. I gotta talk to her about that. Because I wanted to do something that was a little bit more local to me, but I realized that case is still ongoing. But given the fact that I do political analysis, I want to go over the Watergate trial, the charges and what happened with that, for true crime, for Overruled. I think that would be fun. All right. Speaking of politics and people in politics, California politicians have felt Dianne Feinstein's absence for years, from Edward Isaac Dover. Dianne Feinstein has grown isolated over the years from most members of her California delegation and other Democrats in her home state, feeding a discontent among allies who tell CNN they now wish for a more engaged and energetic senior senator. Dozens of elected California Democrats who might otherwise interact with Feinstein on a regular basis tell CNN they long ago stopped expecting to. They wish that she could give advice and collaborate, tackling issues proactively as part of a partner in the Senate. They're bitter about it, and some also tell CNN that the situation means their constituents haven't been getting the work that they elected their senior senator to do. Okay. You fully and openly voted for her to be in the Senate at 86 years old. There is a part of that where I don't really want to hear this from you. It's been 6 weeks since Feinstein came back to the Senate from an extended medical absence for shingles. Aides say that her work level is picking back up, but her return has done little to shut down questions about her fitness for office. CNN's outreach to this month to every member of the House of Representatives from California and 20 key players in California politics reveals a level of detachment on Feinstein's part that stands out even in Washington, where congressional staffers tend to handle much of the day-to-day legislating. As to discuss their working relationship with the senator, many responded with extended ums or groans. Many spoke on the record, while others requested anonymity to speak frankly about a delicate political matter. Again, you get what you signed up for when you elected somebody who's 86 years old to the Senate. To be completely frank, you get what you asked for. And you get what you deserved when you voted for somebody who was 78 years old to the presidency and already had dementia and Alzheimer's. Mogwai says, "Thank you, California, for electing someone more feeble in their final years than Strom Thurmond." So, when even CNN is turning its back on you, you're done. Daily Wire, one from Joseph Curl, also an op-ed from the Daily Wire. Dianne Feinstein turns 90. CNN absolutely incinerates her. I wouldn't say absolutely incinerates her, but they were more critical than CNN would be expected to be for a Democrat senator. Dianne Feinstein has been in the Senate for nearly 31 years and has drawn a government paycheck funded by taxpayers for all but a couple years. Since 1970, more than half a century. On Thursday, the senator turned 90. You'd think the liberal media would blanket her with plaudits, but CNN did just the opposite, publishing a lengthy piece about Feinstein's dismal health and lack of engagement with her job. The lead was brutal. Dianne Feinstein has grown more isolated over the years from most members of her California delegation and other Democrats in her home state, feeding a discontent among allies who tell CNN they now wish for a more engaged and energetic senior senator. Correspondent Edward Isaac Dover said CNN spoke with every House member from California, and a few had anything good to say about Feinstein, whom they painted as aloof and disengaged from the issues most pressing to state residents. They wish she'd give advice and collaborate, tackling issues proactively as an active partner in the Senate. They're bitter about it, and some also tell CNN that the situation means their constituents haven't been getting the work they elected the senior senator to do. Feinstein has been unplugged for quite some time. In March, Feinstein suffered an outbreak of shingles that spread to her face and neck, causing vision and balance impairments as well as facial paralysis. The virus also brought on a case of encephalitis, a swelling of the brain that can leave sufferers with long-term memory or language problems, sleep disorders, bouts of confusion, mood disorders, and difficulties walking. All also things that come with Alzheimer's and dementia. When Feinstein returned to the Senate in mid-May, she was in a wheelchair with the left side of her face frozen and one eye nearly shut. She seems disoriented as an aide steered her through the marble corridors of the Senate, complaining audibly that something was stuck in her eye, the New York Times, a former newspaper, reported. Again, you voted for her, knowing full well what her age was. Yes, they did actually say unplug about a 90-year-old, Mogwai. Mogwai says, jokes on South Carolina, though. Dianne Feinstein has more of a backbone than Lindsey Graham. Let's talk DeSantis. First, from Tom Angel. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis says he would not decriminalize marijuana if elected president, arguing that cannabis use undermines workforce readiness and hurts people's ability to prosper in life. Well, my line in the sand was SB 269, but hey, I can see where other people are upset about this one. Let's read from Marijuana Moment. For obvious reasons, this is not green check verified, but you can check your green and verify that. Ron DeSantis says he would not decriminalize marijuana if elected president. From Kyle Yeager. Florida man Ron DeSantis said he would not federally decriminalize marijuana if elected to the White House, arguing that cannabis use hurts the workforce, inhibits productivity, and could lead to death if contaminated. At a campaign event in South Carolina Thursday, a person who said that they were representing wounded veterans asked DeSantis if he would please decriminalize cannabis as president. The governor responded directly, I don't think that we would do that. Do they cue this up, by the way? They do. So I think we're going to be right at that question because they queued it directly to the 50-17 mark. He then talked about Florida's medical marijuana program that was enacted by voters, saying veterans are actually allowed access to cannabis under that model. But he said the issue is controversial because obviously there's some people that abuse it and are using it recreationally. Wonder what my friend John thinks about that, which by the way, he did get out of that state, so... But still, I kind of wonder what he thinks about that. Let's listen.
Governor DeSantis.
What's your name? What's your name?
I'll hold that to the end.
Okay.
All right, let me make my statement first. I'm here on behalf for a request for a couple of broken veterans with service-connected disease, illness, and injury. And we are saying, please, please, will you decriminalize marijuana in 2025?
I don't think we would do that, but I think what I've done in Florida is we have a medical program through our Constitution that the voters did. And so the veterans who are in those situations in Florida, you know, they're actually allowed access. It's very controversial because obviously there's some people that abuse it and are using it recreationally. But I will say this, nationally, or even on the local level, you know, this stuff is very powerful now that they're putting on the street. And when these kids do it, it's really bad for the youth. And I just think we have to be very united as a society. We want our kids to stay clear of drugs, and we don't want to do policies that's going to make it have easier access for them. You don't even know what they're putting in some of this stuff now because you have things like fentanyl that can wind up. And so if you do something with that, it could be good night right then and there. And you could die just by ingesting that. So I think that that's problematic. I think that we have too many people using drugs in this country right now. I think it hurts our workforce readiness. I think it hurts people's ability to prosper in life. And just from my experience growing up in the Tampa Bay area in Florida, the kids in high school that got involved in that I went with, you know, all suffered. All their activities, all their grades, and everything like that. So particularly for the youth, I just think we have to be united. Incidentally, my wife, the First Lady of Florida, she has a program where we go into the schools now, and we've got athletes and people that have endorsed, and it's called Your Facts, Your Future, but it's explaining to these kids what are the stakes of using some of these drugs nowadays. And this is not something you want to mess around with. You don't know what they're putting in this stuff. and we need to educate the kids. Yeah, we're going to stop fentanyl or work, do the border, all that.
I don't know why Ron DeSantis is trying to lose. And again, I remind DeSantis and DeSantis supporters of this. Now, of course, the full Christian conservative wing thinks that the weed is the devil's lettuce. And it's going to make you instantly turn into a degenerate who just wants to go out and have sex all the time and have a bunch of abortions. But in the real world, as a Republican nominee, if you want to have any hope at all of winning in 2024, which I cannot believe at this point that Ron DeSantis even wants to win when he does stupid shit like this, you have to be able to court Trump voters who are liberal by their nature. They're former union working Dems who got left behind by the progressive movement in the Democrat Party. You've got to court them. You've got to court the libertarian movement, which, by the way, the DeSantis voters absolutely hate. And this right here, that's not going to do it. I don't even think, again, he's trying to win at this point. We'll just go briefly into this one from Insider. Not on the DeSantis agenda for president, decriminalizing cannabis, from Kimberly Leonard. Right, but again, if I was advising Ron DeSantis, I would at least tell you to either downplay the question, avoid answering the question, or hell, you're a politician, lie about it. From Kimberly Leonard. Lie about it like Trump lied about being a pro-gun president. Ron DeSantis said legalizing cannabis would not be on his agenda if he's elected to the White House. DeSantis, who did advance rules for medical use in Florida, said he wouldn't pursue legalization nationally, expressing concerns about more young people accessing weed. Because that worked so well with cigarettes. The definitive statement from the 2024 candidate for president came after a voter speaking on behalf of injured veterans asked DeSantis to please decriminalize marijuana in 2025 during a campaign event in Augusta, South Carolina on Thursday. I don't think we would do that, DeSantis responded, but what I have done in Florida is that we have a medical program through our Constitution that voters did. In other DeSantis news, DeSantis floats new policy proposal on student loans and military readiness. From Steve Contorno and Kit Maher. Hitting the campaign trail in Iowa on Wednesday for the first time as the presidential candidate, Florida man Ron DeSantis tested new policy ideas for handling student debt and boosting military morale. In Salix, Iowa, DeSantis said universities should have to pick up the tab if a former student can't pay back their loans. Later in Council Bluffs, DeSantis said that if elected, would offer to back pay veterans who re-enlist after leaving the military due to the pinkpox vaccine requirements. With what money? They were not working for the government at the time. I am all for trying to incentivize people to re-enlist because you want to rebuild the military that Biden destroyed. But by giving people something for nothing, I mean, that's a Democrat position. If anything, I would just expunge your AWOL charges with a vague promise that he wouldn't do it again. Yeah, hey, we're going to give you free money for being a government employee while you weren't a government employee. That sounds like a real conservative thing to do, Ron DeSantis. Mogwai says, you know a pothead will work like hell for Cheetos. You will die from the gateway drug of pot. It leads to harder drugs. And I don't need drugs to be a degenerate that wants to get laid all the time. Just saying. Nice. For DeSantis, who provided few details on his first-term agenda in his official launch on Twitter last week, and in Tuesday's campaign kickoff event in Des Moines, Wednesday's events offered an early glimpse into the ideas he will bring to the race, as he seeks to convince Republicans he is the best position to take on President Biden in 2024. Both suggestions are near to issues that DeSantis has championed as governor, overhauling higher education to remove perceived liberal influences and pushing back against the coronavirus mitigation measures widely credited with ending the pandemic, which he's got a real uphill battle to go for because he was one of the most draconian lockdowners in the beginning. He changed his tune very quick. I will give him credit for being one of the first ones to change his tune, but while he had authority and power and thought that it was something that needed to be done, he was not shy about forcing everybody who wandered into his territory to have that Q-tip jammed up their nose on the side of I-95. His supporters would like you to forget about that, or pretend that it never happened, or pretend that you didn't see it. A DeSantis campaign spokesperson told CNN more specifics of the DeSantis' policy proposals will come as the campaign progressives. No, they'll come as his campaign advisors come up with more stupid shit that will prevent him from actually getting elected. Again, I am not going to be... This is not going to become a Ron DeSantis hate channel. My feelings towards Ron DeSantis aside, we will give him as much of an objective fair shake as we can. And when he does good, I will praise him for doing good. That is my promise to you, as listeners of Contemporary. For every candidate, DeSantis, Biden, Tim Scott, Suarez, for every candidate that's running, even Trump, when they do good, I will tell you they did good. When they do something tremendously stupid, I will tell you they did tremendously stupid. And yes, that will be above and beyond my own feelings about Ron DeSantis. I will try very hard not to let my own opinions of the authoritarian autocrat in Florida color my decisions of when he does something good, saying that he's going to do something good, and when he does something tremendously stupid, reminding you it was tremendously stupid. Which, by the way, we'll be talking about in these next articles here. So CNN did talk about this very briefly on making the schools pay back the student loans. And this kind of falls in the middle for me. And we're going to talk about why this falls in the middle for me. And I'm glad the CNN actually was one of the ones that talked about it even briefly, because the Washington Examiner, which is not green check verified, did the most reporting on it, but they also released video of him saying it, and I do want to comment on what it was that he had to say about this. So, from the Washington Examiner, DeSantis promises his admin will hold colleges accountable for student loan defaults. This is from Jack Burley, breaking news reporter. Ron DeSantis renewed his call for colleges to be held responsible for students who default on loans taken out to attend school. The 2024 Republican presidential candidate argued that the idea would be part of a push for more emphasis on practical education. His comments came while on the campaign trail in South Carolina on Thursday. Let's listen to the comments.
Incidentally, in Florida, we don't let our universities raise tuition. So it's about $6,400 in state for tuition at the University of Florida, Florida State, and all those places, and we're holding the line on that. Our view is you guys deliver an education that's affordable. I don't want anyone to have to be deep in debt just to get a college degree. So we're on that as well. And one of the things we need to do to make sure that there's more of an emphasis on practical education, not just support workforce programs, but at the universities, they should be responsible for defaulted student loan debt. If you produce somebody that can't pay it back, that's on you, and you should have to do that, and we'll get that done. So I think that there's a lot we can do in all those areas, and we look forward to doing.
So I am going to give this a good idea in theory, but impossible to do in practice. And one of the things that I've said long since we started to do the student loan argument is the fact that we have to disincentivize universities from raising prices and then also forcing people into, well, not forcing people into programs, but offering programs that can't get you a practical job, that can't get you into the workforce no matter what. Because they raise the tuition when the government foots the bill, because they can charge whatever they want and the people will just pay for it because they've been told that they need to have that piece of paper in order to get any sort of job whatsoever. Otherwise, they'll be flipping burgers at a McDonald's for the rest of their life, which is the big lie. Because a lot of the people that have these liberal arts degrees are making the coffee and flipping the burgers for the rest of their lives. There has to be some sort of incentive program to get the universities to streamline the process and get more people into the practical jobs. And, you know, maybe not everybody has to go to college, especially given the fact that we all have that device in our pockets that can teach us almost any practical skill out there for free. I've learned woodworking from YouTube videos, steel casting, aluminum casting. I've learned that from YouTube videos. Not necessarily completely practical the way that I'm using it right now, but something that I could do practically if the bottom were to fall out of everything. Plumbing, electrical. We can learn all of that through YouTube videos at this point. You don't need to have that high-dollar university degree in order to go back and do that. Now, yes, a highly specialized field, law, medicine, things like that, yes, you should be getting people into college for that. But accounting, finance, data entry, you don't need a college degree for any of that. Push the button, make the coffee, you don't need a degree for that. But the more people they get into the college, the more people they can charge more money for, or from rather, they can get more money from. And then they turn around and again jack up the prices because the government will foot the bill and everybody needs to get those student loans anyway. And in theory, yes, it would be a great incentive for the university system to focus on getting more people in and streamlining them into high-paying jobs and not getting the people in that can't do the high-paying jobs and letting them go back out and get a job without incurring huge amounts of debt. In practice, this doesn't work. Because the loan company turns around, they've paid the university's already been paid for this. This also, for me, is coming from somebody who said that some of these moronic doctorate candidates and collegiate, especially the political science ones, who have no idea how the Constitution operates or works, who go back out there and I tell them they should go back to the university and get a refund on their education because it clearly failed them. But in practice, number one, that is a huge amount of money to come back out of the university system. Who is squandering it anyway? And honestly, again, the fastest way to get, number one, universities to streamline specialized careers, but also to lower the cost and get more people in, is to outlaw student finance completely. No more. If you outlaw the FAFSA and outlaw student aid, if you did that right now, we're in the middle of summer right now. If you outlawed student federal aid right now, and everybody had to pay out of pocket again, fall semester, there would be like a tenth of the people in colleges across the country. For fall semester. I would even maybe go further than that. I would say it would be like a fifth of them. No, a 20th, not a fifth. There'd be 5% of college students in college for the fall semester. People either come from rich families or people who got scholarships would be the only people in college come fall semester. And then, come spring semester, that price of tuition would drop significantly because there aren't enough rich kids to go back out and make up what it is the university needs to make up. They make up their volume. They make up their business model by volume, which means they need asses in seats. And furthermore, the further down with this when trying to implement what Ron DeSantis is suggesting in practice is the fact that they would need to literally handhold everybody who came out of their university system through the job process. And of course, then they would have to go back and make new departments, get more advisors, and get people to literally handhold these people and bring them to high-paying jobs and saying, you gotta take this, otherwise we're gonna lose money. And that in and of itself would drive the tuition up. Just trying to add all the rest of these departments into this. You don't have the staff in the university system to monitor everybody who's ever been to college and see if they're actively trying to get a job or if they are just sloughing off and saying, oh, I've got a degree, which means I can be a poet and didn't know it. And the only thing that I can do for money is work at Starbucks. But one day you will buy my poetry and love it. Can you imagine the administrative cost that would go into doing something just like getting an advisor department to make sure that all these students have jobs and keep having jobs until their loans are paid off? That in and of itself would be a logistical nightmare. But again, I don't think Ron is serious about running or winning. And if he is, he needs to fire his campaign staff, like stat. Alright, speaking of universities, coming from my state, and this, by the way, unfortunately, is not something I've been keeping up with, and I know I should. This is local, and this is huge news in my state, but I've not been keeping up on it because Big Don and Big Joe suck all the oxygen out of the room, and they have for a long time. From the Associated Press, Republicans vote to cut University of Wisconsin System's budget by $32 million in diversity programs spat. Well, I'm going to be completely honest, they need to cut the University of Wisconsin System's budget by $32 million just because it's overbloated. Forget about the diversity programs. If you want to throw another $32 million on top of that, that's between you and the diversity hires. But as a person who briefly went to that system is way overbloated all by itself. From Scott Bauer and Harm Van Zwehen. Republican lawmakers voted to cut the University of Wisconsin System's budget by $32 million on Thursday, despite a projected record-high $7 billion state budget surplus, leaving the university nearly $500 million short of what was required. Well, don't worry, you'll raise tuition again. And then the federal government will come back out and pay it. The cut comes in reaction to Republicans' anger over diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI programs, on the system's 13 universities. Republican leaders have said that the $32 million is what they estimated would be spent on those programs over the next 2 years. They need to refocus their priorities on being partners, on developing our workforce and the future of our state. And we're hoping that they're going to be ready to do that as we move forward. Republican State Rep. Mark Bourne, co-chair of the legislature's budget writing committee, said at a news conference. I would question how in God's name we are $7 billion in a surplus either, by the way, because Tony spends and spends and spends. I need to see our balance sheet on that, because I don't believe that for a second. And this is somebody who lives here and sees what is coming out of Madison as far as services, trying to eat up those $7 billion. The university system could get the $32 million back at a later date if it shows it would have spent on workforce development efforts. Oh, good. They'll go back and rebloat the UW system. And not diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, lawmakers said. The GOP plan also aims to cut more than 180 diversity, equity, and inclusion jobs on UW campuses. Well, see, what you could do is work on either getting more vouchers in and getting people out of the public schools, or again, and this is not something I am in support of, but most people in the state would be in support of, taking those $32 million and investing into the public school system so that the people coming out of Milwaukee public schools can read at a grade level. Because trust me, the out-of-state students who come to Madison because it's Big Ten school will pay whatever you jack that price tag up to. Or the federal government will, and they'll just have to go pay them back. Democrat Rep. Evan Goyke called the plan garbage before the vote. You're sending such a painful message to communities of color, people of color around Wisconsin, he said. They're not around Wisconsin, though. You've redlined them all to the north side of Milwaukee. The cut comes despite warnings from UW President Jay Rothman of tuition increases and possible campus closures if the system's budget was cut. Rothman said in a statement, the cut will diminish student access and affordability at our public universities. This is a missed opportunity and a significant setback to Wisconsin's efforts to win the war for talent. Tony Evers, a former member of the UW Board of Regents, which explains a lot, threatened to veto the entire state budget if the university's budget was cut. Evers has said that cutting the university budget, given the state surplus, would be irrational. Hey, Tony, I wouldn't mind having that back in my bank account. Republicans earlier this month rejected the university's top building project, a new engineering building in the flagship Madison campus. Bourne left open the possibility that the project could be funded later, saying discussions about that would continue. And see, now, honestly, and this goes back to the gripe that I had earlier, when I was complaining about the university system in the country in general, and the fact that they're spending so much money into gender studies projects, race study projects, and liberal arts projects. Now see, as much as I don't want the university system funded, except for by people coming in and actually paying for the system, a STEM building would actually not be the worst thing in the world for the University of Wisconsin-Madison. If they were opening up another liberal arts hall or something like that, I'd say, yeah, no, cut it. I don't know. Again, I've not been keeping up on this, and I should be, so maybe I can't speak as wisely about this as I would normally be able to. I do need to do some more research into this. Definitely. And again, if you have to spend the money, and we're going to try to get around that first. We're going to try to not spend the money first, but if you have to spend the money, a STEM building wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. we are finishing up at the 2-hour mark, but there was one thing that I did want to touch on today, just to remind you that we are not a serious country. And this one comes from Fox Business, and then we'll look at Twitter trending and head out of here for the night. I ran across this a few days ago. I didn't believe it then. It is real, by the way. Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg absolutely dead serious about fighting in the UFC octagon, Dana White says. Elon, don't do it. Soong-type androids have 10 times the physical strength of a normal human. You can't win this. I don't know what kind of strength your alien race has, but I don't think it can stand up to a Soong-type android. Think about this, Elon. From Ryan Morick. Twitter's Elon Musk and Meta's Mark Zuckerberg seem to agree to fight on social media, but many seem to think it's all fun and games. However, it's totally serious, said one of the biggest names in combat sports. UFC President Dana White told TMZ Sports that he spoke with both multi-billionaires Wednesday and said that both guys are absolutely dead serious about this. When asked why White felt that way, he said, "They both said, yeah, we'll do it. They both want to do it." White said Zuckerberg reached out to White first, asking if Musk was serious, so White contacted Musk, who said that he was. If this bout were to happen, White says the amount of money it could raise would be unprecedented. I'll give him that. Hell, you'd have people skipping church to watch this one. This would be the biggest fight ever in the history of the world, bigger than anything that's ever been done. It would break all pay-per-view records. The guys would raise hundreds of millions of dollars for charities. You don't have to be a fighting fan to be interested in this fight. Everyone would want to see it. The biggest fight of all time was Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor. I just think it triples that. I think it triples what that did. There's no limit on what that thing can make. Everybody would want to watch it. Everybody would want to see it. Well, again, I don't necessarily want to see Elon Musk get completely pummeled by this. Zuckerberg practices Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, while Musk has done martial arts, BJJ, and was in plenty of fights growing up in South Africa, says White. The potential contest appears to have started when several Twitter users, including Musk, commented on a report about Meta potentially working on a Twitter-like application that would be a direct competitor to the platform. One user pointed out that Meta chief trains in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and warned Musk to be careful. The Twitter owner said that he'd be willing to step into the cage with him. "I'm up for a cage match if he is," Musk tweeted. Zuckerberg replied on Instagram saying, "Send me a location," a nod to UFC's Khabib Nurmagomedov. I'm warning you, Elon. We've seen what Lieutenant Commander Data can do. Those Soong-type androids are not to be trifled with. I don't want to see you die. A little bit of commentary from my friend Stephen Ignoramus before we head out of here on this one, of course, because he looks at the ultra-Christian side of it, but there's also the take on that. Stephen Ignoramus tweets out, When will conservatives stop supporting people like this pro-porn Dennis Prager, anti-God James Lindsay, and a slew of others? Because, with a screenshot of Dr. Peterson, the National Post saying Elon Musk challenges Mark Zuckerberg to a cage match, and Facebook founder says he's in, Dr. Peterson says, well, will that be naked or clothed? And he goes on to say, and there should definitely be some oil involved. We're not a serious country anymore. At least the demise of our civilization will be entertaining to watch. But hey, that's what they said in Rome about the gladiatorial matches. Alright, let's look at, since we're on a Twitter window anyway, let's look at our Twitter trending and head out of here for the night. Every Friday night before we head out of here for the week, we look at our Twitter trending. We see what is trending, what it is we're supposed to be talking about, compared to what it was that we did talk about throughout the night, and see where they think we should be at. Our number one trend, as always, on Friday night is SmackDown. And honestly, it's a little bit saddening to me to actually talk about this, because when I started doing Twitter trending, when I started doing contemporary all the way back in March of 2020, the first one was always what was on TV, even in the morning. It was what was on TV either the night before, or now that we've moved to a night show, what's going on TV right now as we speak. And I guess I didn't realize that many people still had their live TV, either by the antenna or the cable box, that this is still a thing. Liv Morgan is back, and Dakota Kai is out of her knee brace and making a speedy recovery for the women's match. Michael Cole says the winner of this match will defend titles on all three brands, Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. More on the women's match, it appears. Montez is so goated, I don't know who that is. Liv Morgan is a perfect example of how you organically make someone feel like a big deal without slapping 19 world titles on them or giving them invincible booking. What a queen! Which, one thing to remember is this is all scripted, so... And on the other side of it, Montez Ford is the top 3 most unserious wrestlers in the world. It's all unserious. It's all scripted. It is entertaining to watch, but it's all scripted. Our second trend for the night. Let's get back up, get the live chat back up here. Wagner. So this is on, and I didn't get any of this on the stack for the night, but this is on the Ukrainian war, which I guarantee we'll be talking about on Monday. Because apparently Wagner has attempted a coup in Russia. Everything started when Yevgeny Prigozhin, the head of the Russian mercenary group Wagner, accused Russia of bombing its military sites in Ukraine. Despite the Russian Defense Ministry's claim there's no truth to this allegation, Prigozhin stated that 25,000 mercenaries would participate in a military coup organized by him. Igor Girkin, former member of the Russian Federal Security Service, has confirmed that the military coup attempt had begun, and now we know he wasn't lying. So this is actually quite big news that we are going to bookmark for Monday, because we are out of time at this point. Let me get that into articles so I can look just a bit more into this and see where we go from that. Proud Army Brat says, if the Wagner mercenary group actually attempts a Kremlin coup, you better believe the CIA and Biden's regime is at its helm. Which is also not out of the realm of possibility. It's reported that one of Wagner's column is moving in the direction of Rostov. We might have a regime change over the weekend, you guys. A military helicopter opened fire at Wagner's convoy and was shot down by Wagner PMC. So, this is going on right now, as we see. It's developing. It's unclear what's happening in Moscow. No one seems to have clear visibility, but reports say military buildup and Wagner troops reportedly moving towards the Kremlin as generals talk of a coup attempt. No clear visibility, beware of propaganda, and again, I remind you, this is exactly what happened in the Ukraine. Right before the Crimea annexation. So we will be watching this one, definitely. Out of baseball, Ellie De La Cruz. Ellie De La Cruz has hit for the cycle and is now the only 6th damn inning. The kid is unbelievable. This is...
India scores! It's a sight!
Athletics versus... I don't know who C is. Oh, Cincinnati. A triple for Ellie De La Cruz to complete the cycle. There it goes. Nice. Good slide. So Cincinnati's doing well tonight. Oops. We gotta stop the Instagram feed, because that just came back and told me that we hit the 5% warning. I missed the 15% push. Good job, Ellie De La Cruz. I'm still a Red Sox fan, though, so. Moscow. Some more what's going on here. Special Operations Forces, commanded by Valery Vlustikov, have taken over control of the Ministry of Defense headquarters on Frunzeskaya in Moscow. Right now, there's no way of knowing whose side he's really on, Shoigu or Prigozhin. Probably wait and see. Significant movement of Russian National Guard and military forces have been observed in the capital city of Moscow, with reports that checkpoints have begun to be erected near the Kremlin and State Duma buildings, with some celebration over in the middle of Moscow. And breaking reports of Putin's mercenary army, the Wagner Group, is heading towards Moscow. Putin has called troops in to protect Moscow, and he has disappeared. Why aren't MSDNC and CNN covering this breaking news? I'm actually not sure, because this would be the kind of thing that's right up their alley, actually. And the last one is The Last Drive-In. Joe Bob Briggs says, "It feels good to be back home in the trailer park, where tonight we will relive one of the most electrifying moments in horror history. Plus, I'm going to make everyone sing and dance on The Last Drive-In." This is a Shudder original series. This man, A.C. Ferrante, is one of the greatest bringer of joys to my lifetime. I'm not even joking when I say he's brought me as much joy as George Lucas. If Chud Light isn't served at the Jamboree, I'm going to go full Karen and speak to the manager. So it looks like Last Drive-In, they are going to be talking about horror tonight and Sharknado. So I've never seen Last Drive-In. We've talked about it here before, but it apparently is back. I don't know if this is on a hiatus, or it was on a hiatus, or what happened there, but they're definitely going for it tonight. And with that, we're done. We're out of here. I know we've got some stuff left over, but unfortunately there's not going to be a Saturday stream tonight. Or this weekend. There might be, just to catch up on some of the stuff and see what happened in Russia over the weekend. Partially because I think I'm going to miss another stream next week and the week after that. So we'll have to do a couple of makeup ones to go over that because of the holiday. And it's not as easy now doing a night show to get people up and cover contemporary like it used to be during the morning show. It was really easy, by the way, to get people to cover for the morning show. It was one of the easiest things to do. But now at night show, especially on like a Friday and a Monday, the Monday being a holiday, getting people to come in and commit to it is going to be almost impossible, and I am supposed to be out of town as of Friday, so we are still waiting on seeing what happens if I can get tires put on the truck. But yeah, I'm supposed to be out of town coming Friday, so there's that. But yeah, a lot going on and a lot changing right now as we speak. Maybe by tomorrow morning we'll wake up and Mr. Putin be deposed and Ukraine win in Russia war. Given everything that's happened with Hunter And by the way, the fact that we need the distraction of the Hunter story that we spent over an hour talking about at the beginning of the show, it wouldn't surprise me at this point. Isn't it funny whenever there is Biden news that's detrimental to his campaign or his son, we always have the biggest news in the world happening elsewhere? I don't know. We'll see. But we're going to head out of here for the night. Let's throw some outro music up. All right. Well, thank you everybody who came by, hung out, chatted in the live chat. A little bit of a slow live chat tonight, but we still love you guys here, and there's always the lurkers, the listeners, and the people who will be listening back on the YouTube replay, on the Rumble replay, and on the audio platform. So go check us out. Check it out on Spotify too. I get a lot of credit, and I also get a large amount of endorphins when I see how many people downloaded the Spotify stream. I can see that. I can see that on analytics. So if you guys want to do that and help out, plus that does help me out and get it promoted as well. Even if you start it and don't finish it because you were here for the live stream, or download it on Apple Podcasts and then delete it because you already listened to the live stream, that still does help me out, by the way, a lot. Like, you wouldn't believe how much that helps me out. So if you guys do want to help out the stream and help us grow a little bit more, that does help out. Otherwise, the commenting, the likes, the shares, it always helps out. But we are out of here for the night. We will see. Watch the Discord and watch the Twitter for the announcements on if we do go live over the weekend or not. But otherwise, come back and join us for sure on Monday night for more news, more headlines, and more contemporary. It's going to be a great time. Stick around if you're on the Twitch side for a raid. I don't know if anybody is anymore. Main chat looks like it's kind of quiet. But we will see you here on Monday evening for your nightly news. And until then, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.